Hey guys, Jeff here. So after not having had a game of Warhammer Fantasy in a really long time, I decided to test out the new Age of Sigmar rules. I made up two pretty small forces from my Skaven Empire models to get me started and learn the rules. Each army was about 40 models. I thought I'd sort of share some of my thoughts post-game. So what I liked about Age of Sigmar, first of all, I really liked how it's sort of caters for smaller battles quite well. I feel like the game is faster to play and definitely more accessible for newer players. Not only that, but the low model count is very appealing to me because I don't have a lot of space for miniatures. So it opens up the possibility of having several smaller forces as opposed to only being able to have one or two armies that are made up of a lot more models. So I also liked the no point system. It's definitely not without its flaws, but I do like how it allows you to play with models that you wouldn't normally use, and I really like narrative alongside my games, so that the fact that it allows you to build some really cool themed armies, because you can use different models, is really cool. Yeah, I like the rework of the armies that they did, simply because it made a lot of the units that weren't that great actually useful. So for example, I used my Empire Militia and I used two large groups of giant rats. And the giant rats weren't just like a cannon fodder type thing, they were actually fun to use and quite useful in my game. And the more casual feel to the game is also a positive to me. I know that not everyone would agree on this, but for me, casual game was just what I was looking for, something fun and exciting, so I kind of like Age of Sigmar for that. Again, I also think that makes it a bit more accessible to newer players, which I'm hoping to use to my advantage and get some friends back in, having a couple of games, and maybe get some friends that wouldn't normally play involved. I also really like the rolling for initiative every turn. So a lot of people have said that Age of Sigmar lacks strategy. It's not a strategic game at all. I would disagree with that quite a lot. Why? I don't think it's as strategic as 8th edition. It does have a lot of strategic elements, and I think rolling for initiative is, like every turn, is one of those things. So it adds this little random element, which makes you have to pretty much have a couple of different options in mind, because you have this great plan, and then your opponent does something, gets a couple of nice rolls or something, and you get a couple of bad rolls, and it sort of really impacts it. Like, they wipe out a big chunk of your army, and then they get initiative again. So if they didn't get initiative, you might be able to sort of go into a bit of damage control and reshuffle some units and still execute your original plan. They get initiative again, and they get to do even more damage on you straight away. I think that is like, that's a really big thing. So like, you can get pretty screwed over by it. I do sort of see that, but at the same time, you've got to be prepared for that. So you got to know that you might not get initiative. So you got to have a backup plan. So yeah, I think just little bits like that within the game add strategy to it. And yeah, I think it's really nice. So there's a few things that I'm on the fence about with it. I don't really like the magic system. Something that I like and I don't like. I really like the 8th edition magic system, but I also did have some issues with it. Like, sometimes it felt a little bit too random for me. And I kind of like the Age of Sigmar system. It's a little bit more controllable and a little bit simpler. And there's also some pretty cool spells that they've brought into it. And yeah, I think it's still a lot of fun to use. But like I said, I did really like the 8th edition magic system, so I'm kind of iffy about it. Maybe the magic system will grow on me a bit more. Also, the charging as a separate phase to movement, I like this system because I think it makes sense. Like, on a sort of battle scale, you're going to move and you're going to want to do damage to your opponent using ranged attacks before you charge in with your combat, so it makes sense. But coming from 8th edition, I just didn't really have it in my head, so my first game anyway, it made me make some pretty bad decisions and put myself out of position on a number of occasions. And also the battle shock phase. I don't know, I think this will grow on me, but I don't know, the mechanic made me feel cheated on a couple of occasions. For instance, I had some great swords and they did some pretty good damage and they took barely any damage, but a crappy roll made two of the soldiers flee. and I don't know, I just felt a little bit cheated from that because it was only a unit of 6. And I don't know, I felt like it took away from the next combat a bit. And another time I had a bunch of giant rats in with the militia, and the militia did absolutely nothing. They did like 1 wound. Because the giant rats have such low bravery, and I rolled a 6, I think it's 5 or 6, I had like 2 or 3 of them flee, which was really annoying. Because I don't know, I just didn't feel like in those 2 occasions that many units would have fled, just because both times the units that were in the combat were both in pretty good positions. So yeah, some things I really didn't like about the game. So while I enjoyed the small scale battles, and I think it's really cool, I really don't see this game working on a larger scale. And I've heard some stories, I haven't actually seen any for myself, but I've heard some stories of larger games just not really working. Like people trying to use the current sort of army size of 8th edition, and it just not working well. And I can totally see that happening because it felt like having many more models on the board than I did. I had about 40-ish models per side that I couldn't see it really getting up to, over 100 models. I feel like that would just be not fun at all. I think it would drag, and all the mechanics wouldn't work how they should. I also don't like the fact that minis don't make base contact anymore, and it's all to do with the model. I understand it because there's going to be a mix of base types between round and square while the transition's in progress, but I don't know, for me I play with square bases, and everyone I play with plays with square bases, so I sort of took Andy 2D6's suggestion that he had in his video, and I just made a house rule that it's base contact. Another rule that I'm a bit on the fence about, and I kind of don't like it, is that some weapons have range, like spears have 2-inch range. It makes sense, but I'm not sure if I'll play this rule or not. I might actually just change it so that, because I'm using square bases, I might just make it so that it's 2 ranks can fight normally. So 2 lines of men can fight normally, or rats or whatever. And if you've got something that has a 2-inch range, it just means that it can fight from a 3rd line back. I'm not really sure how I'll do that yet, but wasn't that into that rule. So overall, I really enjoyed Age of Sigmar. I think it's a really cool game. It's really fun. It's pretty casual, and I don't know, the mechanics just seem to work. I can see that where people would have some issues with it, and I can get like why people wouldn't so much like the no points value thing, because it'd be hard to balance. But I don't know, if you're playing the right people and you're playing with people that like your friends and that, like you can easily come to agreements. Even people at a club or something, you can easily say we'll do X amount of wounds, or hey, I'm going to bring about this many models, so keep your army around that size, and it should be relatively fair. Plus, most units are better now, or there's not as many useless units. There's none that I've come across that are really useless, like there was in 8th edition. There was some models that are just pointless to use. So yeah, I really do hope that GW produce something that's more along the lines of 8th edition in that it caters for large-scale battles, but at the same time, I'm not really fussed if they don't. I'm happy playing Age of Sigmar for now. It's perfect for what I have time for and what I have space for. And yeah, if at some point they don't produce something that caters better for the larger battles, I'll either just keep playing my 8th edition rules, or I'll find another game system. Like I said, I'm a casual gamer, so I'm not fussed. I can see why competitive gamers might, want to see something happen quicker, and want something more akin to 8th, because Age of Sigmar probably wouldn't be the greatest game competitively. But yeah, that's just my sort of thoughts on Age of Sigmar. I thought I had a game, and I just sort of have a bit of a chat about what I thought about it. So yeah, I really enjoyed Age of Sigmar, and I'm going to keep playing it. Yeah, that's it for this one, guys. As always, thanks all for watching, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye for now.